Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well during our little COVID crisis. I've got a few different projects on the go at the minute, so I'm videoing different things at different times. But I thought I'd bring this one up to you, a way of occupying myself. But Aidan set me a little bit of a challenge. Now I know it's been done before, lots of people have done it, and there's lots of different ways of doing it. But basically, Aidan watches a lot of fan-made Thomas and Friends things, and one of them, or railway stories anyway, and one of them has a character which is the Deltic or prototype Deltic in it, and he was asking whether or not you could buy it and things like that, and I said, well, you can't buy that character. What I did say was is you can buy that model, and it's quite expensive. I wouldn't mind having one for myself, but I certainly wouldn't buy one and stick a face on it for Aidan to use on his railway. So my compromise was, I decided what I'll actually do is buy the old Rosebud Kitmaster dapol prototype Deltic kit, which you've all seen. They're only about 10 quid, around about that mark. I got mine from Peter's Spares. While I was there, I made sure that I actually got the Firecast Kitmaster Deltic windows, the actual what do they call it, flush glazing, that's it, for it. Obviously that would make it motionless and it would just literally be a static model, so I made the decision to buy a donor lima Deltic, which, as you can see, I've already stripped down the shells off. The chassis here, motors there. it's all stripped down, and I wasn't going to make a video, but I thought, wait, you know what, someone else might want to try this if they haven't tried it. And obviously there's lots of different ways of doing this, so the way I'm going to do it is, here's the side profile of the Kitmaster kit, and you can see you've got the fuel tanks here at the bottom. You can do it whereby you basically cut and shut the Lima chassis and you use their tanks, but the thing is though, their tanks aren't three-dimensional, so I want to make my life a little bit easier. So what I've actually done, you can see here's the one I've just shown you, and what I've actually done is cut the tanks off, and it was a very easy process because all I actually did was run a craft knife straight down that channel there multiple times, just dead gently, dead slowly, and it just cut it perfectly straight. So the next stage was to, bring it up to the chassis just to see how many of these parts on the inside were going to have to be removed, and pretty much every single one of them needs to be removed along here, except for this round, this sort of oval one here. That needs to go there, but this one can stay. So all of them have got to come off. Now I've still got to do this one, but I've actually done this one. So you can see they've been rubbed right down all the way along, and all I've used to do that is a small file. Gentle back and forth movements, and it takes it totally flat. It's a very soft plastic. I'll show you here. You can see it's warped. Most of these kits, the old Kitmaster kits, are warped. A bit of warm water will straighten them out, but to be honest, they're not. This one's not that bad. By the time the roof section and things like that are on, it'll straighten it out a huge amount. And obviously we've got a rigid chassis here, so that's going to help. Remember, this is for Aidan. This isn't for my railway. But you could do this if you wanted to model that era, or just have it as a preserved item running around and things like that. And it saves paying 120 upwards pounds for. I'm trying to think now. I believe Bachmann made it. A couple of people have made it. I know they have. So this is just a video. There'll be a lot of time lapse in it, because it's a long process having to prep every single piece. But when there's a certain section, like I've said, with these side pieces, I'll stop the video and I'll bring it up like this so that I can explain exactly what I'm doing not what you need to do, but what I'm doing in order to make the kit. And then if it helps you, it helps you. Plus we get to see the finished product. Just briefly before I move on, while I was at Peter's Spares online, I also bought the Phoenix Precision Deltic prototype paint. So it was there, I got it. It saves me having to try and mix a one or find something remotely close. There's going to be a slight differences in this model compared to, say, the prototype, because on the sprues here we've got the actual bogie frames. Now these bogie frames are very different to that of the actual production model. Now they're also bigger on here than this. Now many people have built these frames and adapted the actual lima frames to fit. I'm not going to do that. This is to make a quick model of something, and it's going to look as close as damn it, which will work for Aidan. And so I'm going to reuse these bogie frames. They'll just be painted up and such like. But these frames won't be wasted, because I came to the decision, the actual chassis that comes with the kit it's there, and the frame's there for the bogies and so on, right? And I still have the offcuts for the tanks and such like. So the plan is, once I've built the actual working model, I think I'll make this chassis for this Lima model, rough this up, scrapyard it, and then it'll be good as a static exhibit. So I'm not going to waste anything. I'm going to do my best to save as many parts as I can, so that I can utilise that shell and make it into something worth having as well on the layout. But in the meantime, I'm going to crack on with the other side of this, and you can see maybe at high speed the process I'm doing to do it. But hope you enjoy, and let's get on. So we've moved on to another stage. I've just sort of test fitting the sides onto the chassis and things like that. I have actually in fact glued this nose onto this side. It's not onto the chassis, it's just literally glued on, only along the front and along the top of the nose. I haven't touched anything here or anything else. It's just to get that one piece into position. But while I've been doing it, obviously I can't fit the interior on the motor side, because the motor protrudes so much into the cab. So this will be the number one side. This will be the nose. This will be where always when it's going forward. And as a result, to try and fit the interior in, or at least as much as I can, you can see the pin there is just protrudes, and obviously a wire attaches to that as well. So in order to try and get as much of the cab in, I'm looking at, you know, where aspects of it fit and things like that, and the same with the front. But what I'm going to do is, in order to give as much clearance as possible, I'm actually going to cut some of it down like that, so effectively shortening its height but keeping it towards the top, so from eye level view looking into the cab it will be visible. So it's going to be a bit of a task to do, but yeah, that's the next stage. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and fit as much of this detail into one cab as I can, while still making it functional on the layout. So Hi there, back again. Right, so I'm just gluing the other side onto that nose there. Bit of advice, the ends here, slice them down, conical style, just, you know, they're okay, but if you slice these front ends down here, you can just see what I've done there. Just use the knife. There you can see it again. All I've done is I'm just shortening the curve. It actually helps with the fitting, because remember, these kits are, where the moulding for them, the tooling is really old. So you're working with a lot of flash, misshapen parts, but it will fit. So little tip there, just cut them down at an angle there at the corners. It will help locate these a lot easier. I don't want to move this too much because I've glued it, but you can see I have put in some cab detail there, and I've literally just cut the floor down. So this is the other side which won't get used. I've basically cut along here, this bit's wastage, and you can see here on this side I've also cut the floor down ever so slightly just to give me a bit more space. With this bit I've cut it down about that far, just utilising the top, and then I've pulled out the seats and various other controls to fit in there. It just means I can locate somebody in there if I want to. So that's about it for tips at the minute there. When you're gluing the noses on, try to sort of, what I've done is I've glued along this edge and this edge, and I'm fitting those two bits. Even though I've got interior there, I'm getting these two bits to line up perfectly first before proceeding on to gluing any other parts on, because I want to make sure it's straight and not twisted. But I also want to make sure that these are flush. I'm going to have to rub them down a little bit anyway, but, you know, why make yourself more work than you need? There you are, you can just see there's the one I've cut down, there's the one that's still there. From the window height, that's more than enough, that's more than ample to be able to see. So it will give the impression of interior detail, but at the same time still making it functional for that dummy bogie at that side to actually operate. So we'll move on and see what else we can get done now. So you join me back here again. It looks a bit unusual like this, doesn't it? This is actually the kit chassis I've just got underneath to hold these bobbles of Katie's on. It's not glued, it's just to sort of like see how warped or out of shape the roof is to the body. And as you can see here, this front bit of the glazing, it's a lot better than it was a few minutes ago. What it actually comes down to is something else of Katie's, the hairdryer. I've been using the hairdryer now to just heat up the plastic, and with the tension of the bobbles just to pull it into shape, and it's working brilliantly. It was massively out of shape a few moments ago, so I'll carry on doing that for a little while. I only want to get it warm, I don't want to get it really hot. If I do that, I'm going to destroy the model. Just a little helpful hint there, just if anyone has had problems with anything like this before, or if they come to try this out, it just makes gluing it a little bit easier. If I just put this down, you'll see there are gaps, but when glued, they will, you know, disappear, or will become less prominent. But obviously heating up the plastic is going to make a lot of difference just to try and get it back into shape, because remember, the tooling is old, it's really old, and on top of that, you have to look at the aspect of they're all just in packets, they're not in boxes, and they're just sort of piled on top of each other when you're buying them. So bear that in mind if you try this out, or if you try any other kits. It's warm water, I've been told warm water submerging it is good as well. However, I want to move on. I don't want to have to spend all my time drying the model when I'm applying glue, so I'm just using a hairdryer just to heat it up ever so slightly, and then just help it push back into place. So there you go. There we go. So body shell pretty much there. I'm not putting the glazing in until I've painted. You can see there. And there are a few little gaps, but I'm going to try and fill them in if I can. As you can see, those noses and the roof, they're all lining up now. Bit of hairdryer, some bobbles, elastic bands, anything like that, and it'll do the trick. I'm going to have a go at painting some of this interior now, before I go any further, and then I'm going to move on to paint with the exterior. For the interior, I bought some gloss paint, if you remember, for the narrow gauge coaches I built, and there's absolutely loads of it there, so I'm just going to do the interior cream and then pick out various parts in black and so on. Same with the seats. I'm going to see if I've got a spare person lying around that I can paint up and stick in the cab area as well. So yeah. So I have been a little bit more busy. As you can see, I've painted the body shell. Wait, I haven't painted it all, but I've certainly had a good go at it. I've got to say that this Phoenix Precision paint has to be the best paint I have ever used on a model. I mean, it is so smooth when it's applied. I'm really, really impressed with that paint. Absolutely brilliant, because I'm just using a brush. I'm not airbrushing it or anything like that at the moment, and I've just been doing it by hand. I haven't been masking off or anything, so you can see little imperfections and things like that. So the job now is to get the lining done in its various areas, pick out lights and such like. Then I need to do the exhausts. I need to dirty up the top, do the horns, then fit the windows. I'm going to dirty that up a little bit, not a huge amount, and yes, once the windows are fitted, that sort of thing, it's going to be reassemble the motor and everything like that, and hopefully it should be done by then. So I'll crack on and see how far we get today. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're not quite finished yet. I've still got to put the decals on and tidy up a bit of this lining. I've gone for a bit of a dirty roof, weathered it up a little bit for Aidan. Reassembled the chassis, as you can see, and the glazing's all in. Remarkably, that fine cast glazing, which looked like it was going to be a bit of a nightmare, was actually very, very easy to put in. Little bits of detail on the front there. I've used the humbrol black wash on a lot of the roof and on the underframe and the bogies, more to pick out any detail that is there. It doesn't really show its true glory on camera because I'm looking at it and I'm looking on the camera, and it doesn't really show its true glory. It looks far lighter on here than what it does in real life, but it's definitely getting there. I've just had it on the rolling road at the back just to check it's running right, and it is. So next job is to put those transfers on for its name, and then it's time to give it a spin on the track. So yeah. So just to prove that it is working, there we go. I think I'll slow that back down again. Right, some of the things that I did actually pick out the handles. They are there in silver. Obviously this is motor end, so you can see the motor in there. There's not an awful lot I can do about that. I could have blacked the windows, but I didn't want to. So to do the handrails, I've picked out the buffers in silver as well as the horns. It's not the best paint job in the world. That blue paint mined by Phoenix Precisions is absolutely amazing. But like I say, I've roughed up the roof, all of the vents, especially the exhausts, to give that really dirty look. I don't want it to be totally sparkling clean because Aidan wants to use it as a dirty, devious diesel. And I did the same with the bogies, just to pick out things like the springs and stuff. The same with the tanks. I'm just going to unplug this and spin it around the opposite way. There we are. There we are, opposite end. So this will be the driving end. No sign of the motor in there. We'll try and keep it this way round. But there we go. Deltic transfers are on. And yes, so if you want to make a cheap version, it's not going to be perfect, but if you want to make a cheap version of the prototype of the Deltic, there's an option for you. There's our old Lima shell. I'll do another video at some point on building up the rest of the kit for that shell and making that into sort of a scrap loco. But there we are, I'm quite happy with that. 2 days on and off, if you know what I'm saying. It's not for my layout, but it is for Aidan's. The only thing that's missing from this at the moment that we're waiting for is the donor face, which I don't think I'll glue on. I think I'll just put on with blue tack or something like that, because Aidan wants to make it into a character for his layout. But like I say, I picked out all of the handrails are done. They've all been painted up in the silver. When you're up close, you can see every imperfection in that paintwork, but when it's going around on the layout, you don't really notice anything, to be honest. Very briefly, for the dark roof, I used an intercity grey for the actual grey initially. Then I used a acrylic, just matte black for in the exhausts. I stippled it a bit around and on the vents as well. And then I used the humbrol black wash for dulling everything down. I also used it on all of the vents to really sort of like bring out the profile. I used it on the bogies, the tanks, everything like that. I didn't put it on the bodywork. I was gonna put it on the bodywork, but I thought no, we'll leave it like it is. I'm quite happy where it is. I don't want to go too far and then destroy it. That is the Phoenix Precisions blue for the Deltic, which, like I say, that paint just went on so smoothly. It was amazing, really nice paint. Considering I was brushing it, I mean, when you look at the top there, I mean, it just went on absolutely wonderfully. No brush strokes or anything. It just I can't even describe how good it was. But and this, what looks like white, is actually like that cream ivory that I used for the narrow gauge project on the coaches, because obviously I had a tin of it and there was loads of it left, so it was a perfect candidate for using on the wasps, or the whiskers I should say, and the lining. It's the best I could do with the with what I had lying to hand. So like I say, if you want a cheap Deltic, there's the option. Use a lima shell or a lima chassis motor, which cost me about 20 quid off the internet, because it was damaged. The shell is damaged, buffers missing, things like that. And then a quick cheap £10 dapol kitmaster rosebud kit. I think I paid a couple of quid for the fine cast windows. So realistically, at absolute most, this probably set me back about 40 quid. And some hours of labour. That was it. 40 quid for a cheap alternative to the actual prototype Deltic. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're keeping well, and I shall see you again soon. Bye now.